Howdy, 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 and welcome to the Lady Walker Show. I am Lady Walker, and we have a gem dandy of a show in store for you. And my guest is someone of interest. He is president and CEO of New Way, Mississippi. He advocates for ex-offenders, and he is here to tell us a little bit about what New Way, Mississippi does to help people. Welcome to the show, Mr. Larry Perry.
Thank
Greetings,
you.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you. So great to be here today with you.
Well, likewise, and thank you so much for coming out. Now, New Way, Mississippi, I know I said in the opening that you advocates for ex-offenders, and not just ex-offenders, but I'm pretty sure other people.
Absolutely. Yes, our target population is the homeless population in the state of Mississippi, with several subpopulations, one being ex-offenders, veterans, and also former addicts and alcoholics that's recovering and trying to transition back into the community.
So that's sort of a big population then. It's not just the ex-offenders who have gotten out of jail or prison, but veterans and alcoholics and all of that.
That's correct. One of the things we find is that when guys men and women come out of prison, or they coming off of drugs and alcohol, or coming back from war, they're trying to transition back into the community. And oftentimes what we do as a public is we expect them to come back and just fall back into the mainstream of society. And that doesn't always happen.
Right.
Especially if you don't have that family support that you need. So New Way noticed a long time ago that one of the main barriers and one of the gaps in services, if you will, were transitional services, which then we began to look at how do we transition these men and women back into the community in a healthy, wholesome, safe environment. So we began to open up transitional facilities. We don't like to think of ourselves as halfway or three-quarter way houses because we have to meet men and women where they are. And New Way, Mississippi, the name really means something, which basically, I've been doing this about 24 years. And one of the things that we noticed over the last 24 years is that initially things that we were doing the old way didn't really work all that well. We do a great job in Mississippi in terms of feeding the homeless and even giving them overnight shelter.
Right.
But we weren't doing a very good job in terms of helping them navigate through the system so that they can get those support services that they needed. So New Way were born to begin to network with other agencies and connect these individuals so that they can become taxpayers and not tax burdens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like that what you said, network. You begin to network with other organizations to be able to help these people who are finally coming back out and they need that transitional support.
That's correct.
Now, as in this transitional services, what kind of services when they come out and what kind of services are being offered to them? Is it any form of education or what?
Yes. One of the things that we look at when an individual is coming out is we actually do an assessment on that individual. What's going to keep that individual from being a successful reentry? Whether he's coming out of prison, whether he's coming back from the war, whether he's coming out of drug treatment. And so what we did, one of the things we looked at was that employment piece was the biggest barrier. One of the other things were the unemployment piece was a barrier because they didn't have proper identification, particularly if they're ex-offenders. So working with the Mississippi Department of Correction, which now with House Bill 585, they are now getting them the identification that they need so that they can have that proper ID when they come out. The other thing was that a lot of them we found were disconnected with their family. They were disenfranchised in the community as a whole. So what we did was began to look at the family dynamic of each individual and then began to, with the permission of the client, begin to advocate once they begin to get on their feet and try to bring that family back together again. The other services that we provide actually is a lot of them are veterans. They're veterans that's ex-offenders because when they came out of military, of course, some of them had substance abuse issues to cope. So then we started looking at what are some of the services that's available to a veteran ex-offender, because they are our heroes, even though they may have went through some struggles in life. So we began to connect them with different veteran services that they had. Another one is that we found that a lot of them were actually diabetics. They had health issues that really was undiagnosed. And while they were incarcerated, for whatever reason, a lot of times they didn't really too much worry about that, even though the medical services may have been available. So now when they're with us, we have a great nutrition program, which actually what we do is teach them the symptoms of a diabetic. We also teach them the basic food groups, how to eat healthy, so that you can control, most of them are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And so those are the main services. We have a great employment training piece. One of the things that we've done over the last year, in 2015, our main focus has been on economic development, because we realize that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with in terms of criminal activity, but in terms of incarceration, is because of the lack of economic development. So with that workforce development training center that we have here in Jackson on Industrial Drive, we have a wonderful employment training piece that actually a 12-week curriculum.
Okay.
And we partner with the Foundation for the Mid-South, and our goal this year is to train 125 men and women that's ex-offenders coming out. And that's going great. As a matter of fact, we're going to be graduating a class tomorrow night. That's actually April the 29th. And so we're excited about that. So, you know, a lot of those services that we provide really we think is going to really help this population move back into the mainstream of society.
That's pretty good. So you got both male and female.
That's correct. Initially, for a long time, we were providing services just to men. And people say, oh yeah, you got a great program. What are you doing for the women? And women, to provide services to women, it's a little bit more challenging, because women come with other issues. They come with the kids, if
right.
you will. And so what we had to do is kind of look at that. So last year, we were afforded the opportunity to access a facility for women. And actually our capacity is 24 women. We partner with the Mississippi Department of Corrections to provide those services. And with that, we actually, this year, I think we're gonna probably take about anywhere from 80 to 100 women through that program. They also have access to the employment training piece. And I think that that's one of the programs that really, really have helped a lot, because it actually affects the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what we are going to do, we are going to take a break, but we are going to come back, and I want you to tell us, like, for someone who's coming out of, you know, jail or prison or whatever, and they need somewhere to stay, how do they find out about New Way, Mississippi?
Okay.
And what steps do they have to go through in order to partake in this transitional services that you all offer?
Okay, great.
All righty, beloved, we will be right back. Welcome back, beloved. I am sitting here with Mr. Larry Perry. He is the president and CEO of New Way, Mississippi. Now you can tell us about how does a person who's coming out of prison, how do they get in touch with you, and what are the criteria? What do they have to go through to partake in this service?
Okay, great. We have a partnership with the Mississippi Department of Corrections. That's community corrections as well as the institutions side of it. 90% of our population, our men and women ex-offenders, are coming directly out of the prison system. And the way they access our services, each one of those men and women have a case manager. With New Way, we have a preliminary application that's actually in their data system. So when an offender is ready to be released, they don't have a place of residence to be released to, then the case manager has New Way as a resource for them. So then the offender will then work with the case manager, fill out a preliminary application. Our case manager at New Way, Mississippi will then review that application, and then most cases we accept them. Rarely do we deny an offender. There's some other issues, because there's a particular offender population that we have to have designated facilities for because of being so many feet from a school and those type laws,
yes.
particularly your sex offenders. But barring that, then what we do is basically work with them. That's one way that they come to our program, is actually out of the institution.
Well, that's good to have that network going on there.
Right, it's a great partnership. We have a formal partnership with MDOC, and we work very closely with the Deputy Commissioner of Institutions, which is Mr. Jerry Williams, as well as the Deputy Commissioner of Community Corrections, Ms. Christy Guttert. So we have a great relationship there, and because they really have a genuine heart to make sure that these people don't re-enter back into the community. We were talking earlier about how they get into our program. We also have the population that's out in the community already, and they're on probation or parole, and they need our services. Well, basically, the way that works is they can always call our office, our main office, which is 275A Industrial Drive, and then that number is 601-354-4002. And oftentimes, some of our clients will be referred by a family member, a mother, or a father, or a sibling that are very concerned about their family member that's out now, been out for 6 months, haven't been able to get a job, and nobody's really working with them. They hear about New Way, and what we do is right now we're actually recruiting now for our next class for employment training. That's a 12-week curriculum. So a lot of them will call in order to access that information so that they can be a part of that. So that's another way that they get into our program. Actually, tomorrow, which is the 29th of April, we're going to actually be participating in the City of Jackson's Fresh Start Resource Fair. And there we're going to be giving offenders the opportunity to sign up for that class.
Oh, okay.
So actually we'll have slots for 60 people doing that next class, because we're going to do 2 classes.
So how many classes do y'all do a year?
Right now we're going to do 3 classes this year, but we might do like this last session.
But they are 12 weeks each class?
Each class is 12 weeks.
Okay.
The next class we start, which will be on the 5th of May, that we will have 2 going on at the same time. One will be on a Tuesday evening, one will be on a Thursday evening. We do it in the evening because number one is good for offenders that may be already working, but they need a better job.
Right.
And the way that they can get that job is they can actually come through that class, because we advocate, they actually get a certificate, they're actually certified, because Dr. Miriam Tyler, who's one of our instructors, she's our lead instructor, retired Jackson State University, go JSU.
All right.
So she's really doing a great job in engaging these men and women and really building them up. One of the things that we found is that the average grade level, educational level, and people that's incarcerated is 6th grade.
Wow.
So one of the things we look at in terms of our grant processes and working with the Foundation for the Mid-South, we want to make sure that we have men and women in that actually can go through the material, that can actually read and comprehend what we're presenting. So that kind of poses a little barrier there where we actually, when we sift and stream through them, for them to actually participate in that employment training program. One of the ways that we've kind of addressed that is what happens with the ones that can't read at or above the 6th grade reading level. We started a remedial training program for those, because a lot of them have great skills. They still need that interview skill, they still need to be working, and they need to be functioning. And so that remedial class kind of picks up that population. So we're doing a really innovative thing in terms of employment and economic development. You'll hear me talk a lot about economic development, because I've found over the last 24 years is that the lack of economic development in our state for a number of subpopulations is the reason why we have a lot of the issues that we have. And so New Way's focus in 2015 is how do we work together with corporations, how do we work together with ministers in the community and other leaders in the community to actually try to create some type of climate so that these men and women can be afforded the opportunity. Because I believe that Jackson and the state of Mississippi, they have an untapped labor resource, in terms of these people, and a lot of them just made mistakes like I did.
Exactly.
Part of my testimony, back in the year, not before 92, I was addicted to crack cocaine. I got caught up in that scene. Even though my mother and father took me to church, raised me good, in the military, I got off on the wrong track. But God drew me back in and allowed me to begin to work with other people. So this population that we serve, a lot of them came from great families. Some of them came from dysfunctional families. But at the same time, I believe, and we believe at New Way, Mississippi, that they deserve an opportunity to change.
Exactly.
And so, that's one of the things that New Way is all about, is looking at this population, that untapped resource for labor. We've had some great guys with great skills to go on and get great jobs. And I've hired a couple of guys that's ex-offenders, and they are doing a really, really great job. So I think that what we have to do in our community is work together in a safe way, because some of them actually will cause you some issues if you don't have the right systems in place, if you will, in terms of accountability. We're real big on accountability at New Way.
But that's great.
Because we know that there's a liability factor when you do hire an ex-offender. So some of those safeguards we have and the systems we have, we do random drug testing. We do relapse prevention sessions, one-on-one counseling, to constantly engage the client to make sure that they're on the right track.
But that's a good accountability system.
Yeah, it is.
Because then they would know, okay, I cannot do this. I don't need to do this here, especially with the drug testing thing.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to be tested for it, so I know I need to stay away from it.
Right. Yeah, we believe at New Way that when you give a person support and they're not willing to be held accountable, then basically what you're doing is you're kind of wasting your resources. Because if you give a person support and they're really serious about changing, then they really, really don't mind the accountability component. Then you can become a better advocate for that individual.
Exactly.
At New Way, we always tell people we have a reputation to uphold in terms of our relationship with employers, relationship with other service providers. So when we refer a person, you can believe that we've monitored that person's behavior, we track them over a period of time, and when we say, hey, this person is going to make you a good employee, we watch them. We don't just send somebody because they need a job.
Right.
And so that's one of the pieces I'll talk about a little bit, if I will, in terms of the advisory committee.
Well, before you go into the advisory committee, we are going to take another break and come back and let you talk about that. And then you can also talk about the family. Is it family?
Family reunification.
Yeah, the family reunification.
Right.
And anything else within the time that we have allotted to us.
Wonderful.
All right, beloved, we will be right back. Welcome back, beloved. I am here with Mr. Larry Perry. He is the president and CEO of New Way, Mississippi. Okay, before we went on break, you were getting ready to talk about the advisory committee?
Yes. Actually, the advisory committee was a part of our strategic plan in terms of how do we engage different employers, corporations around them, particularly in the metropolitan in Jackson. How do we engage them and really allow them to really look at this program and this innovative concept that we have? And so what we did was we created an advisory committee that consists of 9 men and women that come out of the business community, the ministry, clergy community, as well as other leaders in the community. And they actually have looked at what we do, and they're actually now advocates to other business owners and other clergymen in the community to take a good look at what we're doing here, so that they can then begin to be an advocate for this particular population. One of the things in reentry and in transitional services, there's always a fear factor for employers. There's a fear factor for people not in my backyard. But one of the things that we must say, they're in your backyard. They're in your backyard unsupervised, because when they're released and they don't have those supportive services, then they're in some instances walking aimlessly in the community because they really don't have that support or accountability. So with New Way, what we've been able to do is really create a safe climate for that offender, but as well as for the community. One of our priorities is public safety. We realize that there's always a public safety issue when you're dealing with ex-offenders. So what we've done is really look at how do we be responsible as a nonprofit ministry to be able to work with the community and be able to engage these men and women so that they can become taxpayers and not tax burdens.
Right.
You know, we spend over $339 million a year in incarceration. That's our dollars at work in the prison system. Every man that we are able to help and able to keep out of the prison system, then that's more money that can go towards something else that we really need to put it toward, like education. So New Way is a good investment for our community.
So y'all do accept donations, but of course, as you stated before we started taping, there are other innovative ways as well. But donation is one of the many ways that you all do accept to keep this program going.
Right. We welcome donations and partnerships with churches, with other philanthropies, anybody that want to support and believe in what we're doing and believe that this is an issue that we must address. If they want to send a donation, of course, our mailing address is 275A Industrial Drive, Jackson, Mississippi 39206. Or they can also mail to our post office box, which is Post Office Box 24404, Jackson, Mississippi 39225.
And y'all have a website?
We do, newwaymississippi.org.
Okay. Now we got like 3 minutes. Let's talk about the family reunification service.
Right. I'm very proud of that because when a client comes out of prison and they've been incarcerated over a period of 5 or 10 years, they've obviously burned a lot of bridges with their family. Our family reunification component is a component that we have in place where we actually, with the permission of the client, we engage the family members, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a spouse, significant other, in many cases a mother or a father. And we actually work with them and do family counseling to actually share with them the progress that their son or daughter have made in hopes of being able to reconnect them. We have a farm out in West Hinds County, actually Clinton annexes, but we have a farm out there where we have the quarter horses, we have the fishing ponds, and we actually use that as a safe and wholesome environment to reconnect the father, the children, the mother and the children, and the family as a whole together. So we have activities out there 4 times a year where we actually try to get them back together and reconnect them. And we found that worked very good, getting them out of the city and kind of getting them involved. They love riding the quarter horses,
yes,
and some of them like catching those fish.
All right.
So we're very proud of that family reunification program. You know, New Way has, you know, we are led by 3 controlling objectives: the restoration, empowerment, and prevention. A child that's a child of an ex-offender is 5 times more likely to have a run-in with the law enforcement or with the judicial system than a family member of a child that's not.
Wow.
So all of those statistics are very real. You know, of course, drug addiction is a big thing. We have a large population of African American men incarcerated, over 62%. So a lot of those things we have to take into account when we look at complaining about our communities and where they are now. Well, we've got to do better in terms of discipling these men, mentoring these men. We have a great mentoring program. I'm very excited about that, you know, what we do there. You know, partnering with local churches like Dayspring Community Church, Matt Friedman, We Care Church, Charlie Clark, just a wonderful relationship there in terms of churches in the community, in terms of them trying to really work with these men to show them what a real man is all about.
All right, well, we are going to take another break, which is the last break, and we are going to come back and let you finish off whatever you want the audience to know about New Way, Mississippi.
Okay.
Beloved, we will be right back. Welcome back, beloved. I am sitting here with Mr. Larry Perry. He is the president and CEO of New Way, Mississippi. With Mr. Perry, we have such a short time. I want you to give out that contact information before,
Okay.
we go. And just in case someone is interested in learning about this particular program and its services for their loved one or maybe for themselves, give us that contact information
great.
once again.
Our contact phone number would be 601-354-4002. Our physical location in terms of our corporate headquarters, if a person wants to really just come in and sit down and have a consultation, talk about it, it's 275A Industrial Drive, Jackson, Mississippi. And of course, if you want to send a donation, I always love to receive those at P.O. Box 24404, Jackson, Mississippi 39225.
And once again, tell us again what New Way, Mississippi is.
We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization with the focus on transitional services for the homeless population as a whole, with subpopulations, of course, being ex-offenders, veterans, and former addicts and alcoholics. Our focus in terms of transitioning is to really try to work with our target population to help them to transition back into the mainstream of society so that when they get back into the community, they can actually begin to contribute to our tax base as opposed to being a tax burden on our taxpayers.
Well, great. Now, I know you did mention early on that, I think New Way has a class coming up on the 29th.
Right. Actually, we have a graduating class that's actually going to be on May the 29th at 6 o'clock at our Industrial Drive location, which is our corporate headquarters and our Workforce Development Training Center. But we also got another class starting May 5th. We'll have a class of 60, and actually that's going to be broken.
And that's a 12-week program.
It's a 12-week class training program. And
well, by the time the graduation comes, April the 29th?
Actually, it's going to be tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, well, the show won't be airing until after.
Right,
so y'all will have had graduation from that right there.
We'll actually have another class in the process by the time this airs.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
All right.
But we're excited about that. I think it gives an offender the opportunity to have that support so that they can get that opportunity. A lot of them all they need is an opportunity.
That's it, exactly.
And a lot of times we don't get that opportunity because nobody advocates. That's just another ex-offender, so we think, but we never know it can be a diamond in the rough.
There you go. And I think you all are doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
So it's good that you are advocating on behalf of, this subpopulation.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much. Thank you so much for coming out and educating us on who and what New Way Mississippi does and is doing for the community and for the state of Mississippi.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Beloved, there you have it. And thanks to Tria for tuning in. And we will see you next time on The Lady Walker Show. Ta-ta.